Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all going well. Today's video, as you already know because you read the title, but it is about how I got into Yale, and I'm going to be going through my scores, my grades, my stats, my essays, and all the stuff that I wrote on the Common Application that helped me get into Yale University. So if you didn't see my recent video, I reacted to opening my Yale admission decision and I got in, so that's where I'm going to be spending the next 4 years, and today's video is just going to be talking about how I did that. So yeah, I'm going to film a couple of videos on this, but this is the first one in the little series of how I got into Yale. So I just have some notes written in my notebook here, so if I'm looking down, that's what I'm referring to. Okay, so I applied through the Common Application, and I will go into this process more in future videos, but yeah, basically I'm pretty sure there's a couple of ways you can apply, but I applied through the Common App, which is I think the most common one, and that's where I applied to all of the US universities through. So you can apply to all universities on this Common App on the same website, or most of them. But you have to do like separate applications for each university, but there's like a part of the application that's the same for each university. So you fill out that part, and there's an essay that you have to write for that part, and that gets sent to all the universities. So that's the common part of the Common App. And then additionally, most universities, especially most Ivy League and top universities, will have additional questions and essays that you have to write specifically for that university. So I'll be talking about all of that stuff. Okay, so probably the thing you're most keen to know is my scores and my grades and stuff. I'm not going to say my actual like SAT scores, but what I am going to say is if you're looking to get into Yale or an Ivy League university, you want an SAT score over 1,450, preferably over 1,500, but definitely over 1,450. So pretty much you want an SAT score over 1,500 unless you have another catch to your application. So that catch could be if you are a recruited student athlete, or if you are like a really famous person, or you have a really famous like alumni of the university. Like for example, if you're Barack Obama's daughter, you got a pretty good chance of getting into Harvard even if you don't have a SAT score above 1,500. Or if you've done something like absolutely incredible with your academics, like you've won some international like maths competition or something, or if you've done something really amazing in your community. So not just community service, but like you've founded an organization that's done this and that, or you're someone like Malala, you know, who got into Oxford. So someone, you don't have to be as like you don't have to have done as much as Malala and be as well known as her, but you have to have done like a significant amount, like much more than just community service. So yeah, unless you have one of those 4 things, or there's probably a couple of other things that would really increase your chances of getting in, you want an SAT score over 1,500. Yeah, sorry, I probably should have explained this before I started going into the numbers and everything. If you're going to apply to an Ivy League university, you need to have sat either the SAT or the ACT. So those are just like standardized tests that you need to have sat. So even if you're an international student, you need to sit them. You need to sit the SAT, haha. So yeah, I did the SAT. I feel like that's slightly more common to do the SAT, but you can do either SAT or ACT. I'm not sure on the scores that you need for the ACT, but I know for the SAT, if you want a good chance of getting in, you want it to be over 1,500. So that's what you should aim for. And you'll also probably need to sit SAT subject tests. So I sat an SAT subject test in chemistry and in maths. And in those, you're probably looking for scores over 750, which is out of 800. And the SAT is out of 1,600. So yeah, try and get your subject scores over 750. And I can't remember, I think Yale required you to have SAT subjects tests. Actually no, I actually have no idea, I can't remember because I applied to a number of unis and they all had different requirements. But yeah, I would recommend doing subject tests, and that is, so the SAT is to show that you are generally academically talented, and the SAT subject tests are to show that you're super academically talented in that area. So I did mine in maths and chemistry. The chemistry one was a bit because we kind of learnt chemistry in a different way to the way they learn it in America. So that brings me on to my point, that you need to study for the SATs. I did not study for the SATs. I did not study at all. This was a mistake. Please study for them, especially if you're an international student, because you're not going to be used to the format of the test and the way they ask the questions. And for example, in chemistry, there was some knowledge in there that I just had never covered. There were some things I didn't know because we hadn't been taught them, and if I'd studied for it, I probably would have known. There were circumstances going on in my life that kind of meant I couldn't really study for them. It's a bit complicated, but I wasn't just being lazy, although that came into it partly. But yeah, there was reasons why I wasn't able to do proper study for them. But yeah, I would recommend studying for them. You don't need to buy anything. You don't need to pay for stuff. You can, if you want to, pay for SAT guides or ACT study prep books or whatever. But there's heaps of free stuff online on the website. What's it called? College Board, on the College Board website. So yes, if you're doing the SAT, try and get a score above 1500, and on the subject tests above 750, and I would recommend doing at least 2 subject tests. Yeah. Okay, so now we go on to my school grades, and Yale or any of the Ivy League universities, they're going to ask for a transcript of your school grades from year 9. So for years 9, 10, 11, and 12, I had to submit a transcript. I actually just submitted mine from year 7 because I was slaying life, peaking at life in year 7 and 8. So I was like, oh, we'll just shove them in there as well. But you need one from at least year 9, so that's at least 4 years of your school grades and school scores. So that is so that the universities can see that, like, you've been consistent throughout high school. So yeah, my scores, grades, I had pretty much all A's on my transcript. I think they were all A's or A pluses. I did have a B- in art in year 7, but I don't really think Yale cared too much about that one, so don't worry about grades like that. But in, you know, the core subjects, maths, English, humanities, and sciences, and also if you're planning to major in subjects such as media or French, you want to have A's in those subjects, or whatever like grade system you have. You want to have very high grades in those subjects from year 9 to year 12. And if you don't, and if there's a reason for why you don't, it would definitely be worth writing that on your application, because there are spaces for you to write, like for you to explain things that may have impacted your ability to get the grades that you're capable of. So yeah, definitely write that. So pretty much my grades were all very high, and then I also submitted my atar, which in Australia is the score, the final year 12 graduating score that we get, and mine was 99.5. And it's a score out of 100, so that's a very high atar, and Yale would know that because, like, they've had plenty of Australian students before, they've had plenty of students from all over the world. They would know the ranking, they would know how ATARs work, and they would know how the grade system works at A levels in England or in whatever country you're in. In most countries they will know how the grading system works because they will have had students from that country before, so they would have seen my ATAR and they would have known that that is a high ATAR. So yeah, pretty much try and get good grades, not just good grades but like top grades, because everybody applying, well, not everybody, but most of the applicants applying to Ivy League universities, and in particular to Harvard, Princeton, and Yale, just because those are the slightly, like, they're ranked slightly higher on academic rankings and they're slightly more prestigious, although, like, really, it just, those kind of rankings are very, like, but yeah, for any Ivy League school that you're applying to, all of the applicants are going to be high achievers. Most of the applicants are going to have straight A's. Most of the applicants are going to have SAT scores above 1500. Like, you're going to want to have very high school scores just to give yourself a chance at even getting in, you know? Because you need, what they're looking for is someone who has very, very high academic scores and they're very academically talented, and then they also have a catch somewhere else in their application. And the catch is what you show them in your essays. So you've shown them throughout your transcript and your SAT or ACT scores that, sorry, there's lots of like acronyms. I don't know what they stand for, but yeah, you've shown them that you are academically capable or academically gifted, and the catch is what you show them in your essays and in your other answers to their questions. So now I'm going to go through my essays and the other questions. I've got my laptop here, which has my application that I put into Yale. Personal information, name, Tia, Chitty. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to talk about what I wrote about in my essays and in the specific questions that Yale asks on its like specific questions part. And this is the part where you show them about your personality and who you are as a person, and maybe some of the struggles or difficulties you've been through in your life, and kind of everything that's made you the person you are today. And this is something that I like about the US University application system, which is very, very different to what we have here in Australia, and I will be making videos about the differences between the two systems and how to apply to both of them. But yeah, one thing I like about the US system is that in the application they give you a chance to show who you are as a person more than just like the grades that you've got at school. Like most Australian universities just look at your atar when they're choosing whether to admit you or not. Whereas with the US universities, although doing all these essays and questions takes such a long time and is quite stressful, I think it's nice that they're interested in the person that you are. They're looking at you as a person, not just as a number, not just as a grade. And I think that's really nice. I think, yeah, I like that aspect of the system, that they look at you as more of a whole person. So yeah, okay, I need to stop talking about the system because I'm going to talk about it in another video, but this video is about how I got into Yale, so we're going to talk about my stuff. I just need to scroll down to my essay. Okay, I'm not going to read my essay out because then someone could literally like kind of copy it, which is not what I want to happen. So but I am going to go through what I wrote in it and kind of how I wrote it. So my main essay that I wrote on the common part of the common application that was submitted to all the universities that I applied to, I wrote this. I chose the question, the lessons we take, so there's like different questions you can choose. My question was, the lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback or failure. How did it affect you and what did you learn from the experience? So I talked about my experience of changing schools and changing year groups a lot. So I was accelerated a year group when I was younger, and then when I got to high school I was put back into my normal year group. And I also moved from Perth, which is on one side of Australia, to Melbourne, which is on the other side of Australia, and then I went back to Perth. And so I have changed schools and year groups so many times, and I talked about how that was challenging. But then in answer to how did it affect you and what did you learn from the experience, what I learned was that while leaving is hard, returning and coming back to something that you've left is even harder. So that was the underlying message of my personal essay that I wrote. And I just kind of talked about each time I left, which was hard, and then every time I came back, which was harder. So yeah, you're going to want your piece of writing to be, you're going to want to work on like your essays for quite a while. I didn't work on mine enough. I did not get onto the application process until too late. I will talk about that in a future video. But yeah, if you're watching this, then my recommendation is that you get onto this ASAP. Like, you need a lot of time. You need like a lot of time to do this application process, more time than I thought I needed. So I am going to film a video in the future talking about tips specifically for essays, but that's what I talked about in my essay. Yeah, I was going to go and give you tips right now, but otherwise this video would be too long, so I'll talk about that in a future video. That is what I wrote in my main essay. And then if we scroll down, my general questions for Yale University. So they're going to ask you what you want to study, but it's not like what do you want to study. This is how they phrased it. As of this moment, what academic areas seem to fit your interests or goals most comfortably? And then they did like a disclaimer. This is not you choosing what you want to study. This is just you indicating some possible areas of interest. So this is another thing I really like about the US system, because I still have no idea what I want to study. And so I didn't have to choose. I just indicated some things that I was interested in, and then they asked, why do these areas appeal to you? And so the things that interested me were neuroscience, molecular, cellular, and developmental biology, and Spanish. They asked why these areas appeal to you, and I just talked about how I'm very passionate about science, and specifically in the way it kind of relates to humans and how our bodies and brains work, and I'm very interested in the idea and the ways that you can like optimize the performance of the human body under a range of conditions and things like that. So I just talked about that. And then Spanish, I was like, I've always wanted to be able to speak another language, and Spanish seems like one of the most useful and fun languages to learn, and I'm currently teaching myself the basics of Spanish, which I am, or well, I've kind of stopped, but I was teaching myself the basics of Spanish, and I'm going to keep doing that. I need to start doing that again, but my phone has just like died. We're having issues right now, so don't talk to me about it. It's making me sad. Yeah, I need to get back onto that, but yeah, I just said I'd love to learn Spanish more formally at university. And then they asked, please list here any tests you have taken to date other than those already listed in the testing section. So I just listed some like high distinctions I got in Australian maths competitions and national chemistry competitions and global science competitions and various things like that. I just listed some tests. And then the additional questions section. So one of the questions that Yale asked was, why Yale? So you're going to want to think about, why do you want to go to Yale specifically? I'm not going to read out my answer for this question, but my tip is to not write a stereotypical answer. Think about really yourself and the aspects of Yale. So you need to do a lot of research for this question into Yale, and you need to really know the aspects of Yale that appeal to you, and you need to think of something unique to say. Then they asked a bunch of questions like, what inspires you? Who do you look up to? You were teaching a Yale course. What is it called? Oh, I liked my answer to this question. My answer to this question was, if I was teaching a Yale course, it would be how to harness modern media channels to enhance aspects of your life. For example, YouTube, because yeah, I'm harnessing this modern media channel of YouTube to enhance aspects of my life. Anyway, yeah, I'm very, very interested in that, so that's why I put that there. And there was just a bunch of questions like that. I'm pretty sure, no, it mustn't have been Yale. One of the universities asked me a bunch of questions like, what's your favorite movie? What's your favorite snack? And random questions like that. And it was quite a high up university. I can't remember like which one it was, but I was like, are you really going to be admitting me based on my favorite snack? But anyway, that was quite funny. And then there were 2 essays, and there's actually the questions for the essays aren't written on here, but my first essay I wrote about my younger sister Poppy, who has a rare chromosomal disorder, and why that has sparked my interest in medical sciences and neuroscience, because that's made me really, really interested in how we can treat and perhaps even cure these like chromosomal disorders and diseases. So that's what I wrote that one about. And that's something that's quite personal to me. So you want to, in your essays, you want to write things that are very personal to you, and you need to write them in such a way that it makes you connect with the admissions committee. You need to connect with the person who's reading your essays. Sorry, someone is mowing their lawn right when I'm filming a video. And then the second essay, I can't remember what the exact question was because it doesn't say here, but I remember it was something about, it was talking about like you have to talk about a community that you're a part of and how it has just impacted you. And I talked about the athletics community in Australia because that's something I've been a part of for a really, really long time, and it's a community that I absolutely love, full of the very, very best, kindest people, and it's a community that has really helped kind of shape my life for the better. So I talked about that community, and that is the end of my Yale application. Sorry, my camera just ran out of storage. Okay, so I think that is everything I have to say. That's everything I have written down. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. Sorry that I wasn't able to give like my exact scores and my exact essays, but I just feel like it's not really necessary for me to give them. I'm not giving my essays because I want people to come up with their own like ideas, and it should reflect your own experiences and writing styles. And I'm not sharing my scores just because they're kind of irrelevant for you because your scores are balanced out, your scores and grades are balanced out by everything else in your application. And so if you get the same SAT score as me, you might not get into Yale. You might get a lower SAT score than me and get into Yale. Like, it's it's not really relevant to you because it's so dependent on everything else that's in your application. Like, your scores are not the only thing that they look at in your application. In my next video in this series of how I got into Yale and how you can get into kind of the Ivy League universities in the US and top universities in the US, I'm going to be talking about how I got recruited as an athlete by some of these universities, because I was recruited by Ivy League universities as a student athlete. I'm a elite track and cross country runner, and I was a recruited student athlete. So I'm going to be talking about the recruiting process and how you can get recruited by universities, because with the Ivy League universities, I reached out to them. So I emailed the coaches at the universities and said, please recruit me. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about what I wrote in that email, the initial email to the universities, and then the conversations that followed, and what you can do to kind of optimize your chances of being recruited if you are an elite athlete looking to be recruited in the US. So that is what my next video is going to be about. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel for more videos. I'm making heaps of videos about Australian and US university application processes and scholarships for universities, and I'm also filming a bunch of day in my life vlogs at the moment. And when I get to Yale, I'm going to be filming moving into college videos and my dorm tour, and then I'm going to be filming my days, like days in the life of a student athlete at Yale and days in my life at Yale. And yeah, so subscribe if you don't want to miss those, because they are going to be absolutely sensational videos. So yeah, please subscribe to my channel because that will make me very, very happy. And I will see you in my next video, which will be, I don't know what it will be. It will be something. You'll see if you subscribe, you'll find out. Okay. Oh, also comment down below if you guys have any questions about any of the things I've talked about in this video. And I am going to be filming a Yale Q&A at some stage as well. So if you have any questions just generally about Yale, comment them down below, but make sure to include in brackets for Q&A so that I know it's for the Q&A, so then I'll answer it in the Q&A. Yeah. Alright, thank you so much for watching and spending some of your day watching my face on a screen. Yeah, I really appreciate all of you guys's, is that a word? Geysers? That's a thing, isn't it? Like a geyser? Like that squirty thing? Anyway, I go off on the most random tangents. I really appreciate all of your support, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Look at the ring light reflecting in my eye.